again, everyone, and happy Bike Anywhere week. I'm so glad you're able to join us this morning. So my name is Phoenix Smith, and I'm a senior marketing analyst at SANDAG, and I'm also our Bike Anywhere Week marketing project manager, and I'll be guiding you through today's webinar. So before we get started, I just want to provide a couple of housekeeping notes. There's a box on the right-hand side of your screen for questions. Please feel free to type your questions there. And to save time, we'll take the questions at the end of the presentation. We'll also be recording this webinar, just in case you'd like to watch it again or share it with your organization or friends or colleagues. So we'll post the recording later on our website. And here's a look at what's on the agenda for today's webinar. We're excited to have SANDAG Chair and City of Encinitas Mayor Catherine Blakespear joining us this morning to kick things off. Then I'll give you a brief overview of SANDAG and the iCommute program and share some information about Bike Anywhere Week. And next we have SANDAG planners Danny Veeh and Chris Romano, along with Public Outreach Officer Natalie Cushman, here to share some updates on current bike projects and our regional bike network. And we'll save some time for Q&A at the end to answer all of your questions that have been typed into the question box. So let's get started. I'm pleased to introduce SANDAG Chair and Mayor of Encinitas, Catherine Blakespear. Mayor Blakespear is a bike enthusiast and an annual participant in SANDAG Bike to Work Day. She's been helping us to promote Bike Anywhere Week this year. I hope you all got a chance to see her on her bike in our video. Thanks for being here, Mayor Blakespear.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here today as the chair of SANDAG, and I thank you for the introduction, Phoenix. You know, you made a little tiny error at the beginning by saying it was Bike Everywhere Week, and I actually think that would be a great theme for next year, Bike Everywhere Week. You know, it doesn't need to be just bike to work or just bike one trip, but bike everywhere. It's always good to be aspirational with these things. So I'm Catherine Blakespear, and it's my great honor to serve as the mayor in the city of Encinitas and as the chair of SANDAG. And I feel particular pride about our bike program and our active transportation program as the chair of SANDAG, because it's really important that we make it comfortable and safe for people who want to bike and walk and either want to or need to. Of course, we know that it's great for the climate. It's really important for public health. It's also great for mental health. And physical health, but it's, you know, it clears the mind, you're out in the air, you get to see your environment up close. You know, there are lots and lots of benefits that come from biking, and every time that I bike to City Hall, I'm glad I did. So I love, it's a relatively short trip, but I'm always just so grateful that I made that choice to get on the bike, and it gives me joy. Basically, what it comes down to is that I feel good in all ways when I get on my bike, and I hope that many of you experience that too, and I assume you do if you're logging into this webinar, because it must be important to you too, at least in some capacity. So I want to recognize that SANDAG has put substantial energy and effort and money into our bike early action program. So since 2013, we've been planning and building what we're calling the San Diego Regional Bikeway program, and that will add almost 70 miles of new and connected bikeways to the region. One of the most exciting ones is one we're opening next week. So it's the Rose Creek Bikeway, and it's opening to the public. It's 2 miles, and it was built together with the Mid-Coast Trolley Project, which makes it a complete corridor. So when we're re-envisioning how people get from place to place, have transit that is accessible and reasonable and active transportation, those things working together makes it so that it's a completely different travel experience that people can have. So I'll also just say, I just want to mention that, so as someone I'll have been the mayor for 6 years at the end of this term, and on the city council for 2, the thing that I'm most proud of are those infrastructure projects like our Class 1 bike facility, the Coastal Rail Trail, our protected bike lanes, this project we have ongoing now with SANDAG called Leucadia Streetscape. These are projects that when people start using them, you can just see that they are loving and enjoying their place. And I think as a local leader, as a mayor, as somebody who wants to provide a great environment for people to be living in the city, working in the city, visiting the city, having new infrastructure that creates public space that's beautiful and accessible is just, it's the highest level of accomplishment, really. So So I'm really proud as the mayor, as the chair of SANDAG, and I'm excited to welcome you here today and be involved in this. And I think you'll learn a lot of really great information in our program. So let's go ahead and get started. And thank you again for joining us here at Bike Anywhere Week.
Thank you so much, Mayor Blakespear. We really appreciate you joining us here today. Okay, so now I'd like to tell you a little bit about SANDAG and the iCommute program. SANDAG, if you don't know, is responsible for creating the long-term plan for how the San Diego region will grow and how we'll get around. And we'll soon be circulating our draft 2021 regional plan for public review and comment. iCommute is the transportation demand management program at SANDAG, and we encourage the use of transportation alternatives to help reduce traffic congestion and greenhouse gas emissions. We assist commuters and local businesses, and we recently introduced the Telework Assistance Program, a free consulting service to assist local employers interested in making the transition to long-term telework arrangements. We also host the Regional Bike Map and administer a bike locker program at more than 60 locations countywide. All right, so let's shift gears and talk about Bike Anywhere Week. Since the early 90s, SANDAG has encouraged people in the San Diego region to choose biking as an everyday, environmentally friendly commute choice through our annual event, Bike to Work Day. As most of you are aware, we've reimagined this year's event to Bike Anywhere Week to create a safer, socially distanced event. We plan to host our 30th anniversary of SANDAG Bike to Work Day in 2022. Bike Anywhere Week has a combination of self-guided bike activities and virtual events to encourage people to get out and ride safely. We encourage you to go by bike to work, school, the store, the beach, or just around your neighborhood. We hope you'll explore your community and discover why the San Diego region is one of the best places in the country to go by bike. So we hope you'll take the pledge to replace a car trip with a bike trip. If you haven't already, you can take the pledge on our website at iCommuteSD.com/bikeanywhere. Remember, you must take the pledge to be eligible for your free t-shirt. So let's talk about the t-shirt. They're available to pick up at 10 locations throughout the county through this Saturday. And make sure to check the map on our website as business hours vary by location. Now, thanks to our partners, we've got some really great contests for you to enter this week. The first one is a selfie t-shirt contest. So if you share a selfie in your SANDAG Bike Anywhere Week t-shirt, you'll be entered for a chance to win a spot in the Pedal Ahead electric bike program, plus a safety gear package, courtesy of Rider Safety Visibility. You can also log a bike trip on the Love to Ride website anytime during Bike Anywhere Week through May 22nd. And each bike ride you log is an entry to win a new bike, courtesy of the San Diego Bicycle Club, some bike shop gift cards, restaurant gift cards, commuter backpacks, and other great prizes. And I think our most popular contest so far is the REI Bike Bingo activity. I've seen a lot of you turn in your bingo cards so far. So if you turn that in by Saturday, you'll have a chance to win a new bike or other great prizes from REI. And make sure to check out our website for all the complete contest rules. You can learn there all the different ways to turn in these entries. So there are a lot of great options to participate this week. You can take a self-guided bike tour, explore the San Diego region on one of our shared streets, join a virtual class to learn some new biking skills. We've got a cross-border bike workshop on Zoom tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Or you could join our Bike Commuting 202 class. So this is kind of a continuation from last night's Bike Commuting 101 class. That'll be on YouTube Live at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. And we're also posting recordings of all our virtual events earlier this week in case you missed them. For all the details and links to some really cool self-guided tours and story maps, head to our website at iCommuteSD.com/bikeanywhere. Okay, so before I hand it over to our active transportation planning and outreach team, let's take another quick poll. So what is your favorite element of Bike Anywhere Week? Are you enjoying our classes, self-guided activities, or let's be honest, the free t-shirt? Let us know what your favorite part is. Okay, hopefully everyone has had a chance to take our quick poll, and we'll pull up the results here. All right, surprisingly, it's not all our fun, free stuff. It's just the encouragement to get out on your bike. It really takes an easy activity like Bike Anywhere Week, seeing all your friends and family and coworkers getting involved to remind you, yeah, this is a great place to ride my bike and I should be doing it more. So I'm glad to see all of you out there. All right, so now I'd like to welcome a few of our active transportation planners here at SANDAG. Chris Romano is joining us today to tell us more about our Regional Bike Network Early Action Program. And then Danny Veeh will share some stats on San Diegans' biking habits. And then finally, Natalie Cushman is joining us. She's a bike program public outreach officer, and she'll provide some insight on our current bike construction projects. They've got tons of great information, so be sure to stick around for the Q&A at the end if you'd like to ask them something. All right, welcome, Chris.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Romano, as Phoenix said, and I'm going to give a little background on the Regional Bike Early Action Program. So the Bike Early Action Program is actually a culmination of a long series of events that happened. So in 2010, SANDAG developed a regional bike plan. The regional bike plan looked at all the different types of regional bike connections we might need in order to create a great region. And we did that through looking at extensive outreach, talking to people from all over and figuring out where they would like to see facilities. We also looked at data, and so we prioritized it based on land use, demographics, other social factors. And the bike plan is also supported by a number of other local plans from cities and community groups throughout the region. And so it's really just a lot of different efforts that have come together to create this one kind of master plan. Out of that, in 2013, we started looking at how we could start getting some of these projects built. And so we adopted the Bike Early Action Program. And so what this is a $200 million program. It's funded by Transnet, which is our local sales tax that SANDAG manages. And then that funding was always intended to be supplemented. It acts as a leverage for us. And so it's enabled us to win hundreds of millions of dollars more in grants that have then helped us to actually fund this whole program. And it's 70 miles of bikeways on and off street, and it's throughout the region in various stages of design, planning, outreach, and construction, and some of them are open now. So as we have designed and started to build these, we really take a holistic approach because we want to make sure that when we do these projects, we create streets that are not just great for people biking and they're not just great for people walking, but they're great for every single person who might need to use a street, whether you're biking, walking, riding in a wheelchair, using transit, or driving. And so we've prioritized the safe movement of people. And these projects really are complete streets retrofits. It's, again, not just bike lanes. It's things like traffic calming, like you can see in the picture, a roundabout, or sometimes we install transit facilities. We do signal modifications so that we can change the way that the signals are timed and operate. We make changes to crossings. We make improvements for people with disabilities to make it easier for them to get around our streets as well. For the bikeway portion, many of them include either protected bikeways on more of our major streets, and those are bikeways that use some type of physical barrier to separate people biking from people driving. We also have a number of different types of bikeways that are on more local streets and what we try to do is lower traffic speeds to make it comfortable and safe for every person to use those streets to share that street. Of course, you know, we're doing these projects, we're building these projects in urban streets that have been there for a long time. And so we have to consider what's out there now and all of the different needs. And try to figure out how we can build these projects in a way that works for everyone. So why are we doing this and why is it so important now? Well, more people are biking now than ever before in our region. You know, in the past year, we saw biking in our region increase by 42%. And we've done surveys that tell us that 84% of San Diegans are reporting that they're biking more. We know that people have gotten out there and wanted to find different ways to explore their communities. People are relearning about where they live and how they can get around. And so what we really want to do is make sure that we can help those people who have now gotten into biking or rediscovered even walking around their community or just getting around in a different way than a car. We want to make sure that we put the right infrastructure in so that they can keep doing that, even as people start to get back in their cars to commute to work. And finally, there is a huge equity consideration as we work on active transportation. So active transportation is one of the most universal modes. Everyone walks or bikes or uses a wheelchair or something within this realm of active transportation every single day at some point. But we also know that we've got, when we think about who uses our transportation system and how they get around, owning a car is very expensive. It costs over $10,000 a year to own and operate a vehicle in the San Diego region, and not everyone can afford that. Additionally, we also know that the reason that we do these active transportation projects is because we're trying to make it safe for people to get around the region. And in this country, we're in a safety crisis when it comes to people walking and biking. And those who are most affected are people of color, people over the age of 50, and people with low incomes. And so these are the populations we want to make sure that we can help the most. And now I'm going to hand it over to Danny to talk a little bit about how we design these projects and what they look like.
All right, thanks, Chris. So as Chris mentioned previously, when we're designing these projects, it's really to people of all ages and abilities. And putting just a stripe of paint and calling it a bike lane is not going to achieve that goal of making a facility that's usable by everyone. So big intersections like this one, for example, yes, it may have crosswalks and bike lanes. It's not really conducive to the all ages and abilities demographic. Next slide. Just another example of we've got a very auto dominated street here with 6 lanes of traffic and a turning lane and a tiny bike lane over in the gutter and narrow and uninviting sidewalk along that street. So we're not trying to do things like this. And just one last example here of what not to do, but this is an expressway on an uphill with high speeds, and we're asking people on bikes to merge across traffic, and people walking on the sidewalk to dart across this slip ramp here. And for the regional bike plan in the early action program, we're going to build infrastructure that avoids stuff like this. And so how do we do that? Let's go to the next slide. So there's different tools that we have in our toolbox that we can achieve this. So one of those tools here is a shared use path, and these could be used for small sections to cross a barrier like a freeway, or it could be completely a separated facility that's adjacent to but outside of a highway or rail line like you see here. You're probably familiar with the Bayshore Bikeway or the Coastal Rail Trail. These facilities, these shared use paths are designed for people riding bikes and walking and scooting and wheelchairs. Everyone can share the space, and it's separate from cars. And lots of times when we're in urban environments, there's not a lot of space for adding these shared use paths. So we have other tools such as bike lanes, and they come in all shapes and colors. We've got green bike lanes and buffered bike lanes and contraphobe bike lanes, and this provides that separation and dedicates that space for people riding bikes separate from cars there. And then on some corridors and neighborhood streets where you may not need that physical separation, and you have lower traffic speeds, you have lower traffic volumes, you can share the street. And to encourage to make these types of neighborhood streets safer, we can have add things like sharrows and a lot of traffic calming, a traffic circle or a diverter. And oftentimes these are called bike boulevards. And then on other streets where there's a lot more traffic and there's higher speeds, you're going to need something that will physically separate you riding your bike from traffic. And we do that with protected bikeways. You can see that there's, these also come in lots of different configurations. We've got median island protecting bike lanes. We've got parking lane protected bike lanes. They can be one way, they can be two way, and oftentimes they're combined with intersection improvements. And this provides sort of the best the best ability or the best way to accommodate all ages and abilities in dense urban areas. And I think we'll pass it to Natalie here.
Thanks, Danny. So as you can see here, we're at a pretty critical junction of our early action program in terms of the development of our 70 miles of bikeways throughout the San Diego region. We have projects starting that are in the planning phase, some in engineering and environmental clearance, a huge chunk in final design, a good amount in construction, and we've also completed almost 12 miles of the network as well. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some recently completed projects and the ones that we're constructing currently. Next slide. We also have many other programs and initiatives that support the development of our bike network. So while we're out there doing construction, we're also working on promoting the Go by Bike brand and marketing biking to people, letting them know as these new facilities come online that they're available for them. We have wayfinding signage so people can navigate the bikeways. We're monitoring how the projects go. So we do counts before we build the projects and counts after to see, did that safer facility get more people out there feeling comfortable biking or walking in those neighborhoods. We have a grant that's supporting education and outreach initiatives that we're going to be getting underway with this year to do more of those activities to get people out there trying the facilities and discover biking like we've seen over the last year and a half through the pandemic. Next slide. And we have many different public outreach tactics we use to solicit input from the public, to get feedback on our projects that are in design, to notify them of impacts they may expect when we are actually out there doing construction on the projects. And so we have pop-up meetings. We've been doing virtual meetings and virtual outreach through the pandemic. We send email updates about our projects, a lot of different ways that we can connect with people so that they know where the projects are at and if they can ask questions, and we can get in touch with everyone. Next slide. And so, like I mentioned, we've completed about 12 miles of the network, and these are some pictures of some of those completed facilities. We mentioned the Coastal Rail Trail earlier in Encinitas in Mayor Blakespear City. We have the SR15 commuter bikeway between Kensington and Mission Valley. We have the Inland Rail Trail. Over 10 miles of the Inland Rail Trail are completed. SANDAG has completed 4 of them between San Marcos and Vista. That's in the middle there, a section of the Coastal Rail Trail in Oceanside, and portions of the Bayshore Bikeway in the South Bay as well. Next slide. So as I mentioned with the Inland Rail Trail, if you were with us during last year's Bike to Work Day webinar, I would have been talking about the construction of this section. It was 3 miles, and we are happy that we opened that to the public at the end of January this year. You can see a little clip from the animated virtual ribbon cutting we did online. That's on the SANDAG YouTube channel if you didn't have a chance to check it out. And so you can now ride over 10 miles, like I mentioned, from Escondido into the city of Vista at Mar Vista Drive on the Inland Rail Trail. And we're have about 3 more miles we'll be building over the next several years as well, also in Vista. Next slide. As Mayor Blakespear, Chair Blakespear mentioned, we are very excited to be opening the Rhodes Creek Bikeway during Bike Month next Wednesday. We're opening this, we'll be hosting a ribbon cutting, and we encourage everyone to tune in on the SANDAG Facebook channel. We'll be live streaming at 8 a.m. next Wednesday. This is 2 miles that's being built with the Midcoast project that connects from the Mission Bay, Pacific Beach area up toward UTC area. So very critical, high used bike corridor that the public has been highly anticipating. So very excited on this one. And I'm going to be turning it over next to Danny as the project manager for the Georgia Mead and Landis Bikeways, which are also under construction.
Yeah, thanks, Natalie. Yeah, very excited to give an update on the Georgia Mead and Landis Bikeways. So these projects are under construction. We're about 65% complete with construction. This project is about 6.5 miles long, 3.5 miles on Georgia and Mead, and about 3 miles on Landis. And these are within the communities of North Park and Mid-City and City Heights and Normal Heights and Kensington and University Heights. The key features on this particular bikeway project are a lot of traffic calming, as I mentioned. These are, we've got we've got 19 traffic circles going in across these 6.5 miles. We've got bend outs, which are essentially protected bikeways at some of the key intersections with a lot of cross traffic and turning movements. We've got speed cushions and these chokers that are being constructed. We've got these race crosswalks at many of the schools that are very close to both bikeway corridors all throughout. And in addition to the bikeways and sidewalk and pedestrian improvements, we're also doing some stormwater improvements. As there's different sidewalk planters that can capture and treat stormwater. And I think we'll pass it on to Natalie or Chris.
Thanks. Yeah, so to the 4th and 5th Avenue Bikeways. This project is also under construction. I'm very excited about it. We are about halfway through. It's a 4.5 mile bikeway, and it runs in San Diego from B Street in downtown up through Bankers Hill, and it ends at Washington Street in Hillcrest. And the project is largely a protected bikeway. So we talked about those before, but as you can see in this picture, they include concrete median barriers separating the bikeway from the driving lanes. And it also includes a number of other features. So it includes signal improvements, crossing improvements for people who are walking. It includes also the same kind of stormwater and landscaping improvements that Danny had mentioned. And in some communities, we also partnered with the communities who wanted to add extra features. So on this project in Bankers Hill, we have extra landscaping, extra lighting, and a number of very interesting intersection improvements that are going to create signature entrances into the community. So we're really excited to be able to not only build a great project that's going to help everyone get around, but then partner with the community to help them to beautify and create the space that they want. And back to Natalie.
Thanks, Chris. So here we have our contact information for the Go By Bike team. You can always get in touch with us. We encourage you to follow SANDAG on all of our different social media channels. We have information about all of our projects, not just the ones we talked about today, on keepsandiegomoving.com/bike. You can sign up for updates at that URL/subscribe Go By Bike, and our email and hotline are also available if people have specific questions later on they'd like to reach out about any of the projects. We're happy to answer those, and I think we'll have a Q&A shortly if there's questions live today that we can help answer.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris and Danny and Natalie. That was some great information, and I know we're all looking forward to checking out the Rose Creek Bikeway to celebrate the end of Bike Month. We're finally going to open. It's still Bike Month next week, so I hope you all can tune in for that. Okay, so we have one more poll before we wrap up and get over to our Q&A. So let's pull that up quickly. Okay, so which of the bikeway projects that are currently underway are you most excited about? Is it Rose Creek, Georgia Mead, 4th and 5th Avenue, or Landis Bikeway? So we'll give you about a minute to fill that in and then we'll see our results. Okay, I said a minute, but 30 seconds is probably good. You guys are fast. Let's see. All right, it looks like the 4th and 5th Avenue Bikeways win with a close second by Rose Creek Bikeway. So thanks for letting us know how excited you are about these various projects. Okay, so just a reminder, we have a lot of great biking resources on our website at iCommuteSD.com/bike. You can also register for a free bike locker or the Guaranteed Ride Home program there. You can find our regional bike map and some bike safety tips. And you can find more information about our regional bike network, like Natalie just shared, at keepsandiegomoving.com/bike. And don't forget our partners, the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition. They've got a wealth of information at sdbikecoalition.org. And they also have some really cool instructional videos on their YouTube channel. So I need to make sure I thank our partners. We have some awesome partners this year for Bike Anywhere Week 2021. Thanks for taking part in this year's event and for providing all of our amazing prizes. Okay, it looks like we've got quite a bit of time for our questions. So if you haven't had a chance yet, go ahead and enter your questions in the question box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will do our best to get to all of them. Okay, so first question here. How long is the Landis Bikeway? And I'm guessing Danny can probably take that one.
Yeah, so the Landis Bikeway is it's 3 miles long, and it's on the western end. It's basically starts at Alabama Street, and it's about a couple blocks south of University and parallels University east-west, and it'll continue from Alabama Street in North Park all the way to Cajon in the City Heights neighborhood, and that's past Fairmount. That's the main cross street there.
Great, thanks, Danny. Okay, here's another question. Can I use an e-bike on the Coastal Rail Trail? So Natalie or maybe even Mayor Blakespear could answer this one.
I can give I can start. There are different e-bikes, and while there's speed limits on streets where you're driving with cars, this is a multi-use path, so you could encounter people biking, walking, using strollers or walking their dogs. So we, usually encourage speed limits use on the multi-use trails, those off-street trails, to about 15 miles an hour, and many e-bikes operate above that. There are different classifications of e-bikes, which might determine whether they're permitted on those trails. In the state of California, there's a set classifications 1 through 3 of the different e-bikes, some of which are permitted and some are not, so sometimes it depends. And then I also encourage checking with your local cities or jurisdictions on which types of bikes may be permitted. So I'll see if Mayor Blakespear can speak to Encinitas specifically.
Yeah, so I'll just say that on the Coastal Rail Trail we have, which is in Cardiff, we have a 7-mile-an-hour limit. So we don't regulate based on the type of bicycle. But I know that this is a very hot topic, especially e-bikes on mountain biking trails, and it seems to me like it's an evolving landscape. But at this point, at least in the city of Encinitas, we do not have any restrictions on type of bicycle. It just really has to do with speed.
And I would say that's the common practice with probably most cities, at least that I've observed. And it's more about, being courteous on the trail, being courteous to other users, especially on those types, those multi-use or class 1 bike paths where there are many types of users and much lower speeds than maybe you'd be encountering on the street closer to vehicle traffic.
Great, thank you. Okay, here's our next question. Where can we find more information about the bike lockers and where are they located? So I can take that one. We've got bike lockers at about 60 locations throughout the county. A lot of these are at transit stations. Some of them are at park and ride stations. You can find those all on our regional bike map, and then you can also find a form to fill out if you're interested in applying for one. So that's all at iCommuteSD.com. All right, next question. I know we talked about the Fifth Avenue Bikeway project, but somebody had said, I see cars parked in what should be the bike lane. If cars can park there, why is it still closed for bikes? And do you know when it will be open to bikes? So Chris, this is probably a good one for you.
Yeah. So Natalie and I have actually been working on this exact problem with our construction team. So the bikeway is not open for anybody. No one should be in it right now. It's still an active construction area. We have a number of things, even though it looks like it's done, it's definitely not. There's a number of things we still need to do, including final striping, signals, signage, to make sure that it's safe for everyone. And so we're trying to figure out the best way to ensure that people are aware of that, and it's actively evolving. But yeah, there's not supposed to be any parking, biking, walking, anything in the bikeway. We are on track for it to be open in early 2022. Fingers crossed that it goes faster than that, but no guarantees. Natalie, did you want to add anything? I know you have been recently looking at this too.
I think you covered it. Yeah, I mean, there's just, like Chris mentioned, a few more, finishing touches that need to go on the rest of the trail that might, or the bikeway that might look finished. And hopefully that'll also help people, recognize that parking isn't permitted there. And, once we're able to open them for people biking.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful. Okay, here's another one. How can I get in contact with my local representative to advocate for more bike lanes in my neighborhood? Natalie?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would look up on your city website, wherever you might live, see who your local council person is, and reach out to them and their office. They all have, staff who will help them connect with their constituents, and I'm sure they love to hear from them in terms of what kind of improvements you're looking for in your neighborhood. So I'd reach out. I would start there.
And I'll just add to that, going to public comment in your city at the city council meeting is a really great way to have your comment have higher visibility, because all the council members hear it at the same time, as does the professional staff. And the professional staff is as a really key piece in what happens in a city. And then also, of course, other members of the public hear it. So it can help generate a sense of momentum by having public speakers on a topic like that.
Great, thank you. I hope you all have a chance to get your voices heard. Okay, here's our next question. What are the projects in final design phase or close to construction?
We have so many. I'll start with 5 that we're hoping to be starting construction on in 2022. So there is a lot to look forward to. A big one the community has been highly anticipating, the Pershing Bikeway project, which will connect from North Park to downtown on Pershing. That one will be starting construction in 2022. We have the Border to Bayshore Bikeway, which will connect San Ysidro port of entry up to the Bayshore Bikeway in Imperial Beach. That's a long one, over 6.5 miles. We have that one starting. The Imperial Avenue Bikeway project, which connects from downtown into Southeast San Diego. Another mile of the Inland Rail Trail in the city of Vista. And one more. Which one? Barrio Logan, yeah, 2 more miles of the Bayshore Bikeway, Barrio Logan, just immediately south of the border of downtown San Diego. Another highly anticipated project. The street conditions there today are not the best, and so adding that, protected facility is critical to getting us pretty close to completion on the Bayshore Bikeway as well. Thanks, Chris. Those are 5. There's more too after that, but I would focus on those 5 since those are coming up within the next 1.5 years for construction.
Great news. Thanks, Natalie. Okay, when is the entire coastal rail trail expected to be completed?
I don't know if we have an answer to that. The coastal rail trail as a whole is envisioned as a connective corridor from Santa Fe Depot up to the Oceanside Transit Center, paralleling the coaster and Amtrak rail tracks. There are segments today that are complete, segments that SANDAG is working on. We completed the 1.3 miles in Cardiff in Mayor Blakespear City in May 2019. Different cities are also working on their segments, but I'm not sure if I have an exact timeline for when we'll have all 44 miles of the Coastal Rail Trail complete. But it is a long time planned corridor, and there's a lot of little steps and pieces to getting all of those segments built through the entire section.
And I'll just add to that I think the Coastal Rail Trail 44 miles, which goes, like she said, from Oceanside to San Diego, or to the border, is a really critical project in its entirety, but it's going to be difficult to complete, and it's on a very long time horizon. And part of that is because cities have land use authority, SANDAG doesn't. And so if there's a controversial section, or there's a neighborhood or whatever organization or group of people is opposed to it, that there can really be a substantial lag that happens because of the process associated with building that section. So I wouldn't expect it to be completed anytime soon. I think it's always important to manage expectations, but it's also worth noting that even segments of projects are life-changing, because if you just do 1 mile, most people go less than 1 mile for 80% of their trips. So, doing just sections of the Coastal Rail Trail with the goal of eventually connecting them all is a really good goal, but it's still worth chipping away at it, doing it anywhere we can as an agency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, somebody's asking about the Imperial Avenue Bikeway. I don't think we've touched on that yet. Does anybody have an update to share on that project?
I can talk about that project. So we have been in the final design phase for quite a while now. We are finishing our review with the City of San Diego and Caltrans as we speak. I anticipate it will be finished within maybe even the next month. Immediately after that, we will pull our paperwork together to go out to bid, and we're anticipating to do that later this year or very early next year, and then we'll start construction next year, probably mid to later next year, but hopefully sooner, kind of depending on, as Natalie mentioned, we have a bunch of projects that are about to go out at once, and so we're trying to coordinate them together.
Thank you. Okay, let me see if I can get this one right. How does the Georgia, Mead, and Landis Spikeway provide transition to north-south access or traverse across major vehicular corridors like University Avenue or El Cajon Boulevard?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can handle that one. So so the Georgia, Mead, and Landis Bikeways are primarily east and west corridors, but the Georgia Street is a north-south connection, and that's going to cross University Avenue, a major crossing, up on top of the bridge on the Georgia Street Bridge, and then it crosses El Cajon Boulevard at Florida Street, and that's going to have some curb extensions and some bike lanes painted for there to make it much more easier to cross El Cajon Boulevard. But that being said, there's also other north-south connections. We're building, this is going to be a whole network of bikeways. So the city of San Diego's constructing and designing and constructing the 30th Street Bikeway that's going to connect directly and intersect with at Mead and at Landis Street. And then further out in City Heights, the Central Avenue Bikeway will also provide a north-south connection from Landis Street up across University, up across El Cajon Boulevard, and it'll connect to the SR15 commuter bikeway, which is north of Adams Avenue, and that can take you all the way down to Mission Valley. So there's really a network of bikeways spanning the North Park and Mid-City neighborhoods.
Very cool. Thanks, Danny. Okay, the next question is about our regional bike map, and I don't have a copy in front of me, but hopefully someone knows this answer. What does the dashed red line mean on our regional bike map? Does anybody know off the top of their head? Sounds like somebody's gonna jump on our website and why don't we circle back to that question? Here's a fun one. I like this. Of all the bike facilities you presented on that have been completed, which are your favorites for weekend rides?
Oops.
Anybody jump in?
Well, I'll jump in first. So the one in my city, the Coastal Rail Trail, which is 1.3 miles it goes from Santa Fe Drive, and it's just east of the railroad track. So Santa Fe Drive to Chesterfield Drive, which is where the Cardiff Kook is. That is a really beautiful section. So it's relatively short if you're going on a weekend ride, but you also could stop and have something to eat at one of the restaurants near Seaside Market or somewhere in that area. Or go to the beach. So and you could also continue on into our downtown Encinitas. So I do think of that as a really lovely section.
Anybody else have a favorite?
So I'm gonna cheat. 4th and 5th isn't done yet, but I ride that. I mean, not in the Bikeway, but I ride it to watch the progress. Obviously, I'm managing the construction, so I want to see it. But I ride it every week at least once, and usually more. I live in between Hillcrest and North Park, so it was and will be again my commute route to work when we go back. And I just obviously really love that project. I'm super passionate about it. But I also ride the Bayshore Bikeway quite a bit. I like the ride down south, and so I'd say that one is another favorite of mine.
I'll give a pitch for the Inland Rail Trail. I rode it right after the new section was completed, the new 3 miles, a little bit hillier than I was even anticipating, but it's really nice just to have that, protection, watching the sprinter go by, it's a nice weekend ride if you're out for, something recreational. I have the bike map pulled up. There's dashed pink and dashed orange, I think I'm seeing. And I would say those are facilities that are planned or under construction. For example, Rhodes Creek has an orange dashed line on it. And I think orange is the dashed aspect is that that one's under construction. Soon we'll probably get to make that one solid. There's some pink dashes, which might be local jurisdictions, facilities, different facility types that are planned. I think the dashed pink, which might be kind of reddish, is planned facilities. And sometimes they overlap a solid color.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, Danny, I think you're the only one if you want to weigh in really quickly before we get to the next question.
Sure. I just rode it last week, or rode next to it. I did not go into the Rose Creek Bikeway, but there's for a weekend ride, I think that's a perfect destination. You can get a long distance with without having to stop for traffic. You can ride into Mission Bay and then up Rose Creek and connect on the new Rose Creek Bikeway and continue up all the way up to UTC and come on back. It's pretty level. It's a nice ride. So I'll put a plug in for that one.
Cool. Thank you. I love that everybody chose a different bikeway. It just shows that they're all great, and get out there and check them out. And I know I mentioned earlier, but we have some really cool self-guided tour maps that were just created for SANDAG Bike Anywhere Week. 2 that are the newest on our website are the Inland Rail Trail, the portion that Natalie was speaking about. And then we also have one for the San Diego River Trail, which is a nice flat path if you're looking for something that's family friendly. So check it out on our website. Okay, next question. This is great. We have so many questions and we still have a little bit of time left, so I'm going to keep going. How much emphasis is there for speeding up to finish the Inland Rail Trail west to Vista? Can the city of Vista add any funding to expedite this? It's important. It's a short, important segment into downtown Vista. So Natalie, maybe you have a little insight there.
Yes, we have active transportation funds, and we just won a new grant within the last month or 2 for the second segment. So we have a mile in Vista from Mar Vista Drive to Civic Center Drive that will start construction on next year. And then there's 2 more miles that will connect from where that leaves off up to North Drive, headed toward East Oceanside, and we just won another active transportation grant for that section. So that one is now getting scheduled in for construction. But I would say we're still a few years away from actually getting that underway, just planning and getting under construction with all the other projects. But I think that 1 mile section between Mar Vista and Civic Center is a pretty critical one, but we have funded now the full City of Vista Inland Rail Trail gap. So those last 3 miles getting through Vista are funded and being scheduled.
That's great news. Thank you. Hopefully that's good news for whoever asked that question. Okay, back to Rose Creek. If the Rose Creek Trail connects to UCSD, are there safe ways to connect to the trail from central San Diego, all the neighborhoods south of the 8 and east of the 5, to use for commuting? Sorry, I read that kind of fast.
Danny?
So I think in terms of the connections into the coastal rail, well, the Rose Creek Bikeway. So yeah, you know, you're kind of
UCSD, like, is there a safe connection to UCSD from points south and east, because you can get there through Rose Creek?
Well, I think, yeah, the Rose Creek, and I think that is the safe connection in there. It's north, you know, it'll run north and south from, you know, the Mission Bay and, you know, Pacific Beach communities, and you know, but it is kind of hemmed in with geography, with, you know, big slopes, Mount Soledad on one side, and you know, some canyon lands on the other side. But yeah, I think there are, you know, up in UCSD area, there's some, you know, new protected bikeways that are being constructed, and new bike bridges that are being constructed. So at least around UTC, we're seeing some improvements up there that have been done by, you know, both UC and the city of San Diego.
One thing I would add is, so I think if you're wondering about kind of the southern, like south of the 8, essentially, today there's a lot of on-street riding. But if you look at the Bike Early Action Program map that we shared earlier in this presentation, as that gets built out, there's going to be a whole network of facilities. And that's really the intention of our Early Action Program, is to create a network so that people can get to key destinations in our region using safe and comfortable facilities. And so while the answer may be not quite yet, it's coming.
Great, thank you. All right, I think we're down to our last 2 questions. Are there any plans to connect the SR15 bikeway directly north past the 8 and the river to directly connect to Murphy Canyon bike path and the new river park that is being built at the old Qualcomm site?
I think I can make a stab at that one. So yeah, I mean, that is definitely a gap in the network right now. You know, we've got the barrier of getting across I-8 and getting through, you know, over the San Diego River there. There, you know, with San Diego State, the SDSU West project at the stadium there, it's obviously totally, you know, redesigning the entire stadium area there. And there are plans to build a new bridge across the river to connect over. And so we are working with San Diego State. I think there was a planning grant that got to look at how we can make those connections, you know, from both the SR15 bikeway and also how we can connect the San Diego State main campus over on, you know, up on the mesa and down to SDSU West, which is obviously in Mission Valley. So I think there's some more initial planning work going on to identify different projects there.
Thanks, Danny. Okay, last question speaks to kind of the coastal rail trail conversation that we started earlier, but talking more specifically about Carlsbad to Encinitas segment. Just noting that there's some tight spots and there have been some high profile accidents. Is there any help there beyond what we currently see?
Well, it's hard for me to really tell where that question is aimed. So Coast Highway 101 that connects to Carlsbad is a project we're working on right now. The city is, which is called Leucadia Streetscape. So we just talked about this at our council meeting last night, $20 million to do 3 roundabouts and a substantial segment of Leucadia Streetscape. You know, the connection with Carlsbad specifically, that area around La Costa is basically been somewhat improved and will be somewhat more improved based on a new hotel that just went in there, the Alila Maria. So I'm not exactly sure if there's another question related to that, but essentially SANDAG is not involved in that, and it's not the Coastal Rail Trail. So there are still outstanding questions about the Coastal Rail Trail sections through Leucadia that are basically unresolved because the double tracking of the railroad tracks is unresolved, which side of the track it's going to be on, because that affects the right of way that's available. So the number of moving parts associated with that just makes it so that it's really unclear what's going to happen there.
Thank you. Yeah, the question wasn't specific to exactly which section we're talking about, but thank you for covering the various sections so we have a little bit better idea. And if that person would like to follow up with any of us too, we're happy to dig into it a little bit further for you if you provide more specific location information. So, okay, we got through our questions. That's awesome. Sometimes we can't, but I'm really happy that we had enough time to get through everybody's questions. So again, feel free to reach out if you think of anything else afterwards. We've still got 2.5 days left of Bike Anywhere week, which means that you still have time to participate. Thank you once again for joining us today. I wish you all good health, and I hope to see you out there on your bike. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.